My story is not just about me leaving a 5-year same-sex relationship, but it's also about my transition and how God's love transformed my entire life. Hello family, and welcome back to my channel. It's your girl Kyla, and today I'm super excited to be back with another video. This is going to be my 3-year update of leaving the homosexual lifestyle. So I left the lifestyle 3 years ago. I'll leave the link to my testimony above if you haven't seen it. It was a very hard testimony for me to give, so you will see that my demeanor has completely changed, but definitely before you watch this video, go check out that one. But yeah, you guys, I want to give you guys a rundown of what my 3-year journey has looked like, share with you guys some lessons, some wins, some things that I struggled with, and I'm going to continue to share my journey, you know, God willing, and I'm excited to just get into this video. So if you are someone who has left the homosexual lifestyle, or you left a same-sex relationship and it's been hard, it's been discouraging, I know there aren't a lot of testimonies out here about it, but I'm excited and grateful that God has given me this platform to share my story in real time and to give you guys a real honest look at what it's like and God's faithfulness through it all. So let's go ahead and jump right in. Now, really quickly, the first thing that I want to address is why I use the term ex-lesbian online. Now, if you come to me in person, I don't identify as an ex-lesbian. I identify as a child of God. But when I'm creating videos, my background is in marketing. And so my job is to make sure that the videos are positioned for people to find them, people that are actively searching for that term, ex-lesbian or ex-homosexual, right? That's not how I identify. I identify as a child of God. And I wanted to talk about that because when people leave the lifestyle, they feel like they need to put another label on themselves in order for people to understand where they stand. But I'm a firm believer that even in this ministry Made Whole, it's about reclaiming your identity in Christ. And so though I left a same-sex relationship and I left the homosexual lifestyle, what I came into was my true identity in Christ, which is a daughter, right? And that is the way that I identify. So if you ever see me using that term, that's why. A lot of people have asked me that, but I believe, like I said, our identity is rooted in Christ. And it's really helped me on my journey because it's helped me to still identify with what I went through and the things that I still struggle with from time to time, but it also helped me to see that that's not all of me, right? My story is not just about me leaving a 5-year same-sex relationship, but it's also about my transition and how God's love transformed my entire life, right? After I left that relationship, I dedicated my entire life to God. So that means every one of my desires, my will for my life, what I'm doing in business, ministry, all those other things, that is the surrendering of my heart. And so it's really important that as you identify yourself by what God says about you. He says that you are his daughter, his son, like your identity is rooted in him. And I just really want to drive that home before we even get into the rest of the video. Okay, so now let's go ahead and hop into some of my biggest lessons in year 3. Year 3 was a big year. Well, kind of the end of year 2 into year 3 was a really tough year for temptation for me. I feel like in year 1, I was super focused on God. I was 100% like, you know, praying every day, really getting in my word and just, you know, getting in God's presence. I was fired up. I had that new believer zeal. And so year 1, I was extremely focused. Year 2 into year 3 was definitely a lot of testing for me. One of my biggest lessons for year 3 is definitely to trust what God is showing me. God is a protector. God has vision and he can see things that we'll never see coming. And in his grace and his mercy, he will begin to show things. And so God began to show me some areas that I needed to improve on. He began to reveal some motives in certain people that were around me, and just even some things that I would face. And I felt like it was a vulnerable time for me in year 3 as I was really intensely focusing on my healing, God healing my heart from, of course, leaving the relationship, and also healing my heart from all other things like bitterness, anger, resentment, me not understanding, you know, why I had to go through certain seasons. There was a lot of healing during that time, and it left me very vulnerable. And so in that vulnerability, I began to just seek comfort in different places, and God really had to reel me back in. And particularly in the area of temptation, I learned that I have to be really careful with who I open myself up to, especially in vulnerable seasons, because when you are someone who is dealing with same-sex attraction, it can be very easy for you to get emotionally attached to people. And because, same-sex attraction and any other form of sexual immorality is really rooted in perversion, people that you open up to or you get emotionally attached to, it can quickly turn into perversion if you are not careful and mindful of what God is showing you. So I feel like there were a lot of things that I could have avoided if I had just been heeding to the warnings that God was showing me, not only in myself, like things I would be vulnerable to, but also in other people. Like, anytime I found myself in a trying situation, I cannot say that God did not show me. Like, God would show me in dreams. God would, one of my strongest gifts is discerning of spirits. So sometimes God will show me the motives of people. He will show me the spirits in operation behind people. And sometimes I will doubt it because I'm looking at the outside. I'm looking like, oh, like, this person looks fine to me. This person said they were there for me and all of this stuff. And God is like, you don't really see what's going on under the surface. And like I said, because I was in a vulnerable season, I allowed myself to just kind of stay in places longer than I should have, because I was, again, looking for somewhere to be poured into after being so emotionally vulnerable from all of the healing. So one of my biggest lessons is definitely not doubting what God shows me. My second biggest lesson that I learned was the importance of making decisions. I feel like when you're dealing with same-sex attraction, you have to make decisions constantly that are surrendered to God. You have to constantly walk in the fruit of the spirit of self-control. You have to constantly be mindful of yourself, right? The type of things that you like, the type of people that you're attracted to. And I'm not saying this in a paranoid way. I just feel like God just made me very aware of my triggers during this year. And he definitely made me realize that I was not as strong as I thought in certain areas. And so during times of testing, there were areas that were revealed to me that I needed to be very careful on. Sometimes you can get to a point where you feel secure in your walk and you feel like, you've overcome everything and you are, standing high and mighty and nothing can come against you. And there's a scripture in the Bible that says, I think it says something along the lines of humble yourself lest you fall or something like that. But it basically just talks about how you shouldn't, don't believe that you are immune to any type of temptation or testing, because in those moments your pride will blind you and you can really fall into those things. So you have to be very mindful. This was a very self-aware season for me, and God showed me some things in myself that I did not like, and I had to really come to terms with that. I couldn't go certain places. I couldn't listen to certain things. Music was a huge thing. Anytime, again, when you're dealing with sexual immorality, but same-sex attraction, any other spirits of lust or anything like that, you have to be very careful with what comes across your eyes, what you listen to, people and places that you're around. Like I said, I'm not saying this in a paranoid way. I'm just saying this of being mindful of your triggers. And being really listening to the voice of God when he tells you do not go certain places or do not hang out with certain people, just not pushing the limits. I feel like sometimes we feel like we can kind of play the gray area when it comes to temptation, and in this year I learned that we cannot do that. The word says, can a man scoop fire in his lap and not get burned? And I feel like that was a huge lesson for me as I was just navigating my walk. Pay attention to what God is showing you. Be very careful who you open yourself up to emotionally, and pay attention to God's leadings. Like, if he's telling you not to go certain places, if he's telling you not to go certain places, or he's telling you to maybe stop watching this show or stuff like that, it's really important. And it's not just because God is trying to bog you down with rules, but it's really because he knows, seeds that will be planted. He knows areas where you are vulnerable in, and we really have to trust his protection and his leading. So that was one of my biggest lessons as well. Now, another lesson that was huge for me is that I had to allow God to fill every void in my heart. Again, following and surrendering your life to God will open you up. It's like God is performing open heart surgery, and there's going to be some things that he reveals to you that you're going to be like, I didn't even know I was dealing with this. And like I said, it can leave you in a very emotionally vulnerable place, because sometimes it hurts having to address all of these different pain points and all of the different areas that God is purging you. And it can be really a really painful process that will make you want to run to, you know, old habits real fast, because like I said, there's a lot of processing and pruning that God has to take you through in your, you know, sanctification process. And I learned to have accountability in this season. Between year 2 and year 3, I learned to have accountability because, again, when you are vulnerable, sometimes you don't think clearly. And I thank God for the Made Whole community. Even though that's the community that God has given me, it has been a blessing to me. Like, I now have people that hold me accountable. I'm now responsible for others. And so having that safe space to be able to call up, you know, my mentor, someone who's there for me, like, and be honest and say, hey, listen, I'm struggling in this area. I'm feeling tempted. I feel like I want to go do this thing. Having that accountability has been huge for me. And being honest, right? This has been the most honest year that I've had. Like, I have been extremely transparent with God. I have pulled God into every single area of my life. I have like raw and honest conversations with him. And I talk about that in my new book, which is called Grace to Stand, a practical guide for enduring temptation and trials. Everything that I wrote in this book is like in detail lessons that I've learned. I wrote journal entries in there, and one of the chapters is called What to Do with Your Dirty Thoughts. And that chapter is crucial for me because I feel like even though I left the lifestyle, there were still so many lustful thoughts that try to come up in my mind and tempt me, you know, in areas that I did not want to be tempted in, especially in seasons where I was vulnerable. And I felt awkward initially talking to God about those things because I was like, God, I don't, you know, like I had this shame over me. I didn't want to like make God feel like I was dirty, or like I just had a really negative view, and I just wanted to, I felt out that I could handle these things on my own. But in that chapter, I just explained how, you know, how God taught me to deal with those lustful thoughts. Like, what do you do if you're in a situation and you know you find yourself attracted to somebody, right? Like, that you don't want to be attracted to. How do you deal with those things? Any type of lustful thought that just feels like it's overwhelming, like, God gave me a blueprint, honestly, for just how to have those tough conversations with him. And it has been such a blessing. This has been a healing year, but such a freeing year at the same time. So if you want to check that book out, I'll leave the link for it in the description, and I'll put a picture up here somewhere. But that book is literally a blueprint for you guys. I read a few books about people coming out of the lifestyle, but the ones that I have read weren't as, I'm a very practical person. Like, I want to know what to do in this situation, what to do if I'm in this situation, what to do if I'm in that situation. I wrote this book because I wanted an honest, transparent viewpoint of what it's like to lead this lifestyle through ups and downs. And that's the book that I wrote. This is the guide that I want you guys to have, because I wish that I had this in the beginning of my walk. And even now, the stuff that I wrote in that book is stuff that I even use now to maintain, you know, my freedom, because maintaining your freedom is a fight. We live in a highly lustful world. We live in a world that's telling you to do whatever you please. People still today probably look at me like I'm crazy when I say I left my, 5-year lesbian relationship with someone who I was completely in love with to follow Jesus. But they don't understand that, like, it's not just my relationship that I left. It was my entire life. There's a scripture in the Bible that says, if you try to hang on to your own life, you will lose it. But if you give it up for my sake, you will gain it. And so when you leave the lifestyle, it's not just about leaving, your ex-girlfriend or your ex-boyfriend. It's literally about dying to yourself. Like, that whole part of your life is gone. It's also your pride that's going to be killed. It's going to be your ego. It's going to be certain friendships and things that have to go. But what I learned truly this year is that God will replace all of those things with not only himself, but God ordained people. I feel like this was the year where God revealed to me my God ordained friendships and connections and people that were supposed to be in my life. And he exposed those who weren't. And I feel like he had exposed people to me before, but again, I was in that season where sometimes just like the pain of what I was going through allowed me to stay around people longer than I should have. But like I said, this year, like, I know who the people who are supposed to be around. Like I said, journaling, also a huge thing for me, because it allowed me to get out my honest thoughts. Like, there were some times where I was so angry. I got some points where I was so angry with God for me still having to go through certain things. And I think journaling allowed me to have that safe place for me to get all my thoughts out with God without feeling like judged for what I say, right? I wasn't concerned with how it was coming out. I just wrote it all down, and then God began to speak to me. So that was a huge thing. Now let's get into some wins for year 3. So again, win number 1, I wrote my first book, Grace to Stand. That book is, oh my gosh, I cannot encourage you enough. Go get the book, because this is not a book that it's gonna take you forever to read. I made sure that everything in there is concise, is what you need to know. But I also took my time to tell you guys how I worked through certain scenarios in my mind, because I feel like that's something that you don't really get to see or hear a lot. Sometimes you might hear a lot of preaching and teaching, and you might, hear books about a general, but I felt like I wanted to be very specific in this book. So I wrote that book. I'll leave the link in the description for you to purchase your copy. You definitely will not regret it. I've gotten amazing feedback from it. So yeah, that was one big win. I became an author this year. My second big win is I hosted our very first Made Whole experience in person, you guys. That was a whole testimony in itself. To be in the room with the presence of God was just mind-blowing. God took over the entire conference. People were literally getting healed, activated, and sent out, which is our mission. There was such a surrender in the room. This wasn't one of the conferences where people just talk at you all day. This was just God, people pouring out their lives before God on the altar, people accepting their calls, people just stopping their running process. It was such a beautiful experience. There was so much love in the room. I feel like just chains of rejection and brokenness and all this other stuff was just broken off of everyone in the room. It was just amazing. This is such a family experience, and that's one of the things that I'm most proud of about Made Whole is the family, the genuine friendships and connections that are built in this space is just mind-blowing to me. After the conference, we all went skating, we went and got some Jamaican food. Everybody was able to be themselves, and I think that's just such a beautiful testimony. And God just coming through and just I can't even describe it, but if you talk to anybody that went, you will understand just the magnitude of the presence of God in that space was amazing. So we are going to be hosting the Made Whole Experience 2023, and it's going to be in March. So you can definitely click the link in the description box to get more information about Made Whole 2023. You do not want to miss it. You do not want to miss this. If you missed the last one, I'm so sorry for you, because listen, God was in the room. It's just indescribable what God did. So yeah, that was a big win for me to see everybody that we've been talking to and building with online. There's nothing like in-person encounters with God. It's just nothing beats it. Nothing beats it. The third win is we hit 500 downloads on the Made Whole app. So y'all know my testimony from the app. It was a long process. Basically, everybody and their mama told me that the app was not going to be published on the App Store, but God came through and published it on a Sunday, and we just hit 500 app downloads. So thank you to everyone who has downloaded the app. Thank you to everyone who is a part of the private Made Whole community. This is a community for people who have left a homosexual lifestyle or are feeling that tug from God to leave. It's a safe place for you guys. We really are a family here. We have accountability calls every single week. We have prayer calls. We meet, and we're going to be doing so much more. We're going to be having Bible studies. Eventually, there's going to be local meetups in your area. So if you're not a part of that community, definitely click the link in the description box. All of the links will be there. Don't do this walk alone. You don't have to. God has built this space, and I am so grateful for each and every single person who is a part. The fourth win is, y'all, I officially own the Made Whole trademark, so I'm grateful for that. I will show you guys my certificate, but it hasn't come in the mail yet, but that's something that's been in the works for a long time, so I'm just really excited. You guys know we became a nonprofit. I think that was at the end of my second year. leaving the lifestyle. We became a nonprofit, so thank you to everybody who has donated, who has poured into the vision. The event, the Made Whole experience that we had last year at the beautiful hotel, it was actually a free event, and we were able to do that by God's grace and, you know, by you guys' support and donation. So we are building amazing things. Also, the website launched this year, so wearemadewhole.com, and there is just blogs there. There's resources for you guys. There's resources for you guys that'll help you along in your journey. Even you can even click where you are in your journey. It'll take you to the right resource. It's just there's so much to come. Like, we have so much to build. God has given me just an immense vision for this, and I'm so excited to be building it. So if you would like to support what we are doing in Made Whole, you can click the link in the description box to donate, or go to wearemadewhole.com/donate. You guys, it's out in the open what we're doing. I would absolutely love your support in what we're building. And I'm just so excited, you guys. So that is my year 3 update. God has done an immense work in my heart. You can probably just see it on my face, especially if you go back and watch my first video, because boy, that was a trial, okay? But to see where God has brought me in such a short amount of time, just 3 years, God has built just this He's built me up. Like, from the ground up, He's built me up, and I am so grateful. My heart is so full of love for Jesus. Like, listen, He has broken so much shame off of me, shame of my testimony, shame of the things that I've been through, and He has really built me up in boldness. And I'm excited to be leading Made Whole and leading other people who are going to be selfless servants, poured out for Jesus. Like, I am so full of love. I'm so full of life, and I pray, like, if you are someone who is experiencing the tugs of God to leave your relationship or leave the homosexual lifestyle, we are here for you. Like, you are not alone. This is my 3rd year. I'm continuing on strong. I know people who are in the community who have been delivered for over 20 plus years. Like, listen, we are standing strong. Like, don't let the world deceive you. Listen to God. We are here for you. We want to support you and love on you. And yeah, so don't forget to subscribe to my channel, guys. I'll continue to do these updates and more videos. Definitely, if you're new to my channel, take some time to go through the videos. I have over like 60 plus videos of where I've been sharing my journey from the beginning, and there's so many different topics covered. So go ahead and do that. Click the link in the description box to get all of the links to the book, to learn more about the experience, the community. It's just so much. Just go ahead straight to the description box. I love you guys so much, and I will talk to you on the next video.